The story begins with a man waking up to find his entire town transformed into a desolate, dead city. The streets are empty. There's no living person in sight, and everywhere he looks, he sees rotting corpses. What has happened to this town, and how will this man survive in this dangerous situation? The main character, Nick, is a geologist. To make his work easier, he has built his home in the mountains, far from the city. One day, as usual, Nick goes to a stone quarry to collect mineral samples. He's rejoicing in his good fortune when suddenly he's bitten by a poisonous snake. He rants angrily and tries to call for help, but his mobile phone falls into a crevice in the rocks. He's forced to save his own life. He tries to remove the poison by cutting the wound with a knife, which only temporarily dampens the effects. Enduring intense pain, he somehow manages to reach home and drink several bottles of water. But eventually he collapses on his bed, unconscious. He feels his heart pounding. His vision blurs and a strange sleep engulfs him. He slowly falls into a deep unconsciousness. He doesn't know how much time passes, but every now and then he regains consciousness. He notices that his hand has become severely numb, and then he falls unconscious again. At night, someone knocks on the door. Two men come with flashlights, find Nick lying unconscious on the bed, and then leave without doing anything. Nick's condition worsens. During this time, several helicopters fly over his house. When he feels thirsty, he simply drinks water until the last bottle remains in the house. With great difficulty, he gets out of bed and drinks it too. The next morning, Nick finally regains consciousness. Surprisingly, the wound on his hand has completely healed. He himself doesn't know how long he slept. After taking a short shower and collecting himself, Nick decides to go to town and buy some essential items. His small car parked outside his house was covered in a thick layer of dust. He wiped the windshield with a cloth and tried to start it. Luckily, it started. Nick's house wasn't far from the city, so he reached the outskirts in no time. But as he drove further, he began to notice something strange. He didn't see a single moving vehicle or human being along the way. He stopped outside a supermarket and was stunned to see a rotting corpse lying in front of him. Some military vehicles were overturned in the middle of the square. What had happened to cause this situation? He was completely terrified. Then he saw an electronic board that read, quote, "Everyone should immediately take shelter where they are, due to the outbreak of a deadly virus on Duniya." Nick said, "That's impossible." He immediately ran back to the car and turned on the radio. All channels played only government-recorded messages. This virus is extremely fast-spreading and deadly. That's why everyone was being warned to be vigilant. After a while, Nick drives to his parents' house. He goes inside and calls out for his mother, but there's no response for a long time. He sees that food is still on the dining table, as if someone had left it in a hurry and not hurry. A bad feeling arises in his mind. When he opens the bedroom door, a pungent smell hits him. Mustering courage, he goes inside and sees his father lying dead on the bed and his mother collapsed in the bathroom. The sight fills his eyes with tears. He never imagined that after just one night of sleep, he would be separated from his parents forever. No. Nick, suppressing his grief, digs a deep pit behind the house. One by one, he buries his parents in it so that he can at least bid them a final farewell with dignity. At least they receive the dignity that 99% of people who die in this world do not receive. That night, Nick lies on his childhood bed as if saying goodbye to his past forever. The next morning, he decides to leave home and search for other survivors. But everywhere he goes, there are only corpses. He doesn't see a single living person. Walking the deserted streets, he realizes that if things continue like this, in just a year, the grass will grow taller than the people. He gathers some essentials from a supermarket and decides to head out of town, but the bridge leading out of town is completely blocked. Shocked, Nick gets out of the car and sees that the road ahead is completely blocked and the blockage is impossible to remove. His patience gives way and his emotions break. He wishes the last 2 days were just a nightmare. He angrily punches the steering wheel. After calming himself down a bit, he decides to go in the opposite direction. He closes his eyes and presses the accelerator hard. There's not a single vehicle on the straight road, and he's not afraid of a fine. Night slowly falls, and he sees a flashing red light somewhere in the distance. About 15 minutes later, he arrives in another city. Colorful lights are shining along the streets. At first glance, everything seems normal, except for the lack of people. Nick goes to the largest mall, thinking that if anyone is still alive, it must be there, as it offers all the amenities for food, drink, and accommodation. But he searches every floor, yet finds not a single person. He wonders if he's the only one left in the world. Exhausted, Nick goes to the mall's rooftop to take a bath. After bathing without wrapping a towel, he goes to the bar counter and starts drinking. As he picks up a glass, he suddenly hears a woman's voice from a nearby room. Hearing this, he becomes so excited that he almost drops the glass. After a thorough search, he finally finds 2 survivors. A glimmer of hope suddenly dawns in Nick's heart. He now has many questions. Upon asking, he learns that the 2 survivors had come from abroad for work. They were staying in a hotel when suddenly the virus broke out. Nick calculates the time, and it's been 3 weeks since he was bitten by the snake. Mike, the survivor, takes out his mobile phone. He recorded the entire incident. The health department initially issued a high-level alert. This virus was completely new and so dangerous that its infection rate and mortality rate were the highest in history. No antiviral medication was effective. Initially, the government tried to conceal the truth, but the situation quickly spiraled out of control. Even governments at various levels ceased to function. Annie, the survivor, firmly asserts that the virus has spread worldwide and humanity is almost extinct. The reason they survived is probably because they possess a rare immune system. Nick is unwilling to accept this. He decides to go to other places and see how the world could end so easily. While waiting for the elevator, he leans against the wall, exhausted. Deep inside, he too has begun to believe their words, and he sleeps there the entire night. The next day, he plans to talk to them again. But when he looks for them, they are nowhere to be seen. For a moment, he thinks that yesterday might have been a dream. A short while later, he finds Annie in the expensive clothing section, and Mike is nearby cooking breakfast. Mike suggests that perhaps this disaster is the Earth's way of cleansing itself because humans have burdened the planet too much. Everyone close to Annie has died from the virus, and the same has happened to Mike. So they decide to stay together, supporting each other. Mike previously thought they were the only 2 left in the world, but now Nick's arrival brings him some joy. Nick explains his thoughts. He doesn't want to stay here forever. The world is vast, and he yearns to find hope somewhere. Hearing this, Annie becomes disheartened and quietly leaves. Mike tries to convince Nick that it's wise to stay here as there's plenty of food and drink. But Nick insists that all this will end one day. Mike explains that he and Annie have decided that when their supplies run out, they will end their lives together. Yet Nick doesn't want to be confined to one place. Sadness shines through Mike's eyes, and he says that when a person loses their most precious possession, perhaps even living doesn't feel better than dying. Hearing this, Nick sinks into deep thought. He understands that convincing Mike is impossible. He goes to Annie again and says he can take her away from here. But Annie shares Mike's sentiments. She says that when she saw both her children die before her eyes, her heart died in that moment. She no longer has any hope or desire for this world. Hearing this, Nick angrily pushes Annie away and runs out of the mall without looking back. Suddenly, 2 gunshots ring out from behind. Nick realizes that Annie and Mike have ended their lives. His heart feels heavy as if a huge stone has been placed on his chest. He presses the accelerator hard and accelerates forward without thinking. But he doesn't completely lose his composure. In the distance, he sees a living figure. Nick immediately applies the brakes, and there is a small yellow dog. Without thinking, he takes it in the car with him and names it Luke-ish. Now Nick and the dog go to the city's largest library together, where Nick selects many books of his choice. Then he takes Luke back home. Until he finds a clear goal, he decides that staying put is the best thing for now. Perhaps this is the right way to live in this ruined world? Nick even jokingly thinks that he and the others will be together for the rest of their lives. On one condition, the one who dies last must not eat the one who dies first. Slowly, a year passes and Nick's life becomes monotonous. The supermarket hasn't run out of food and drinks yet. His main job is to keep his body healthy. Nick, who previously preferred to live alone, begins to adapt to this new world. He can now learn freely, enjoy peace whenever he wants, and gradually begins to accept this desolate post-apocalyptic life. As he gradually adjusts to this new life, Nick begins to feel that this isn't so bad after all. But one day, he suddenly notices something strange, smoke rising from a house in the distance. Without delay, Nick takes his car and drives through the deserted streets to the place where he suspects someone is living. On the rooftop, a woman stands with a gun pointed. Nick immediately explains that he hasn't seen anyone in a long time and just wants to know if anyone is still alive. The woman understands. Then she puts down her weapon and invites him in. The girl's name is Emma and her father was a soldier. She's lived hunting in the mountains since childhood, which is why she escaped the spread of the virus. She's been wandering around for a year and only arrived at this house a few days ago. After eating some smoked meat and drinking tea, Nick, satisfied, offers to leave but Emma begs him to stay. She explains that she chose this house because there are no corpses here, but she doesn't want to stay here long because it doesn't feel like home to her. Then Emma herself offers to accompany Nick to his house. The next morning, they set out together for Nick's mountain home. Nick never imagined he would find such an open and friendly girl in this desolate world. Soon they arrive at her house, which also has a large courtyard in the back. Emma happily says that she wants to stay here for a while. Hearing this, Nick's heart begins to flutter. He immediately takes down the rope hanging from the beam of the house, as he probably won't need it anymore. Then he discovers that rats have spoiled the food stored in the cupboard. The two then go to the supermarket in the nearby town, as the disaster struck suddenly, and people couldn't stock up, so there's still plenty of leftovers. So Emma also finds solar panels there, and she says it's as if this place was built for a catastrophe. Nick had considered moving there before, but the real problem was that there weren't any other people there to live with. Living in his own villa felt much more comfortable than stealing things from others. Together they collected a whole cartload of groceries. But Emma didn't like canned food. She believed that true taste comes from nature. Nick understood her point, but deep down he hesitated to hunt animals. He felt that this disaster was actually the Earth's way of balancing itself, as if humans were a virus being eradicated, FS being eradicated. If they continued to defy nature, Earth's punishment will never end. Yet, to Emma's delight, Nick takes a fishing rod to the riverbank and catches some fresh fish. Meanwhile, Emma gathers mushrooms, leaves, and fruit from the forest and cultivates a small vegetable garden behind the house. Nick realizes he's no longer alone. With this realization, he begins to improve his home. He'd read in a book that if a place is made comfortable, happiness automatically follows. Wow. Emma also realizes that this is the true peace of mind. But a question keeps coming to Nick's mind. Where did everyone disappear? Why are only the two of them left alive? Is this a twist of fate or some strange prank of Earth? These questions bring their hearts closer together. That night, after a long, exhausting, and emotional journey, they stand on the balcony, both wrapped in sheets. Nick begins to contemplate the future. If they are to live here for a long time, they will need to arrange for electricity. After all, light and warmth are what truly bring peace to life. Nick considers going to the supermarket again, but his old, new tasty vehicle finally gives up. Fortunately, there's no shortage of vehicles nearby, and petrol is readily available. He picks up all the solar panels from the supermarket and brings them home. However, while installing them, he accidentally drops them from the roof. Luckily, he has a sensible and capable partner. Emma says that love means having someone who is there for you with all their heart when you need them. A kiss deeply feels the love and affection and perhaps even brings back memories of the past. At midnight, Emma secretly opens her bag. Inside, she finds many old photographs, some with her boyfriend, some with her 2 children, and some with her parents. But alas, all of them are gone. The next morning, Nick's leg wound has healed considerably. He prepares to install the solar panel again. Then Ememi-sama suddenly announces that she's pregnant with their child, Mo. Nick should be overjoyed, but worry is evident on his face. He fears whether the baby will be born safely without a hospital and doctors. Hima immediately comforts him. The next moment, Nick is filled with excitement. He goes to the library with his dog, where there are countless books on childbirth and childcare. With no doctor available, he'll have to learn everything himself. Just then, a rat darts by. Nick grumbles that rats are plentiful these days. He then buys a large selection of baby products from the supermarket. Emma laughs slightly, noting that no father can have everything perfectly prepared before the baby arrives. Then he looks out the window and smiles, noticing that the chicken coop Nick built is actually working. Over time, Emma's belly grows larger. He often feels weak. Nick learns from books and realizes that he should eat more pulses and vegetables. But then Emma suddenly says she wants meat because she hasn't had non-vegetarian food in a while. She starts to pick up the gun, but Nick stops her and takes it upon himself. Shortly after, he finds some stray cattle on the riverbank. He loads the gun, but hesitates before pulling the trigger. He thinks of catching them and taking them home. But animals are so easily controlled. In a matter of moments, all the cows run away, leaving only one small cow standing there. Nick ponders for a long time. Finally, he picks up the gun and pulls the trigger, biting it. But the white cow doesn't die immediately. She writhes on the ground in agony. Nick curses her in anger and helplessness, and compelled to do so, fires another shot, killing her. Oh no. But Nick is not at all happy because the real test begins. Forced by circumstances, he adopts the method described in the book. After much effort, he finally finds a box full of food. When Emma beams with joy at the sight, Nick feels all his hard work and trouble was worth it. But they don't realize that this very food is about to become a grave danger. After spending an entire afternoon, Nick finally installs the solar panel. By evening, they happily turn on the lights in the house. The large refrigerator is now working. Just then, Emma pulls out a box and reveals that a large rat had drowned in the bathroom. Nick takes it lightly, but then strange noises start coming from outside. When they look out the window, they are startled. The smell of the food they ate during the day has attracted hungry rats nearby. Panicked, they immediately light a fire outside the door and throw all the leftover food into it. But it's too late, and thousands of rats heading towards them. They immediately run inside the house and close all the doors and windows tightly. The rats can't get in, but they start banging loudly on the glass from outside. Emma fears they might enter through the plumbing, so she pours disinfectant into every small, large hole. The sound of their running and scratching echoes even on the ceiling. Nick has only one hope left. He silently prays that these rats will leave as soon as possible. Just then, there's a rustling sound outside the door. Nick immediately remembers that his beloved dog Luke is still outside. He pulls his teeth, quickly removes the tape from the glass door, and tells Emma to stay away. Then he slams the door open and rushes to retrieve the dog. Although his actions were swift and precise, several rats still managed to get inside. Nick immediately picks up his gun and starts shooting them. When he runs out of bullets, he picks up a wooden stick. After several hours of struggle, he manages to kill all the rats that have entered the house. But the rats outside are still gone. The poor fellow is badly injured, covered in bite marks all over his body. Emma gives him an antiviral injection and stitches up all his wounds. After this incident, Nick's self-confidence is severely shattered. He begins to remember the tragic deaths of his parents and fears that his child will be born safely. Emma convinces him not to worry unnecessarily. She explains that she has already given birth to 2 children, but all her family members died during the virus outbreak. These memories seem both ancient and yesterday. Time passes slowly, and 2 years have passed since the virus outbreak. The wild animals outside have become even more dangerous. But in a way, nature has regained its balance. One day, Nick musters the courage to step out of the house, and to his surprise, the dangerous rats have completely disappeared. Then Emma gives him the good news: their child is about to be born. This is the most stressful moment for every father. Even though Nick had studied a lot beforehand, he panics when the real moment arrives. Fortunately, Emma has experience, and under her guidance, a new life is about to enter this world. Finally, a beautiful baby girl is born. Nicky is overjoyed. He emotionally reflects on how wonderful life truly is. He even considers that perhaps the responsibility of restoring human civilization now rests on his shoulders. Nick is no longer the carefree loner he once was. While he enjoys the joys of family, his responsibilities have also increased immediately. But Emma is not one to settle for comfort. She writes their home address in the most visible spot on the road so that anyone else alive can find them. If you want a second part, please type part 2 in the comments. I'll try to get it up as soon as possible.